$1 trillion in credit card debt? Let's face it, $1 trillion in credit card debt is a problem, particularly with the average interest rates that are charged to access that money. Now, why is credit card debt trending up? Is it necessarily a bad thing? What can you do if you find yourself in credit card debt? Most importantly, how do you get on the other side of a debt spiral? In other words, how can you earn interest instead of always paying it? Those are big topics to discuss, so let's dive right in. Why is credit card debt trending up? So $1 trillion in credit card debt, that's the total amount of money carried month to month on the balances of credit cards and credit card users across the USA, and it's at an all-time high for personal indebtedness for US citizens. Now that seems like a big, scary number, and let's be real, it is. It means that $1 trillion of personal capital is being paid down with interest rates charged to it. Those interest rates, they could be deployed into savings and into investing, into increasing the wealth of the average person. Now, is there any particular reason why this has been trending up? There's probably a million of them actually, hundreds of millions of them, with Experian saying that the average American has 3.8 credit cards each. They also happen to mention that the average credit card limit has reached $30,365. This level of credit card debt, while it's at an all-time high, the actual total number of indebtedness of your average individual is really not at its all-time highs, according to the Federal Reserve. Insert a interesting graphic here to help depict that. You might think that, well, the reason for all this extra credit card debt is that your lower class and middle class is being left behind, thanks to all the inflation that has been occurring over the last couple of years. And that's actually part of the story. You would think that high interest rates would be driving that number, since the average interest rate now stands at 20.92%, when earlier this year it was 16.65%. Some individuals are saying that these credit card rates are the highest that we've ever seen. The thing is that during the pandemic, when the government was handing out stimulus to try and keep the economy afloat, amid all the devastating shutdowns that they demanded, credit card balances actually went down. Credit card balances declined to less than $750 billion in the spring of 2021, as people were largely unsure of what was going to happen next, and thus they were saving like crazy. Was there going to be more stimulus? Was the economy going to fall off of a cliff? Was inflation going to be insane? Yes to that last one. People really had no idea what to expect, and thus were saving like crazy. Now that inflation is cooling down and the job market has remained relatively strong, people in general have started opening up the spending spigot. And with summer travel season and the holiday season, the one time of year where retailers and others are trying to make their entire yearly sales quota, you can expect those numbers to grow even more. I'm sure there are some YouTubers right now who are working on their Shopify and Amazon FBA stores, doing their darndest to come up with commercials and social media advertising to convince you to buy their products, on credit of course. Now the question is it a bad thing? That really depends on your perspective. If you're a credit card issuer, like a bank or a credit union, then actually, it's not a bad thing at all. You, the bank, are earning interest on all of those carried balances. So you're actually making money. If you're an average consumer, one can argue that you're getting the goods and services that you want and need at the time you need them. Employment has been relatively stable this entire time. From that perspective, it is sort of a good thing as well. And in both those cases, who am I to disagree? Money isn't necessarily everything. And life is about living. And if you're a bank, your business is to make money by lending money. And if people are borrowing money, frankly, you're doing your job well. That said, if you're someone who really cares about growing your wealth and having something put away for when you retire, if you're carrying your credit card balance month to month and thus paying interest on that balance month to month, then you're not putting that money to use better elsewhere, meaning you're probably not optimizing your wealth creation journey. And while it's not necessarily bad in the truest sense of the word, it's definitely not where you want to be if financial freedom is your goal. Now, what would you do if financial freedom is your goal and you're carrying a balance month to month? Well, first things first, you have to come to grips with your financial situation. Are you in a situation where you need to spend more money than you make to simply cover your bills? That's an unfortunate situation that a lot of people find themselves in, but understanding that putting all that on credit is just going to compound the pain you will eventually feel once you finally decide to get your finances in order or someone does it for you. But it's best to pull the band-aid off all at once, experience the pain all at once, and get the healing started as soon as possible. What does that mean in the real world? Well, you're gonna need to cut your spending drastically. You may need to get a roommate or two for a period of time to help offset the cost of living. You also need to form up a budget to get your spending in line with what you make. There are a number of different budgets that work for different psychological profiles, so pick one that works for you. I find that getting on a budget that works for your psychological profile, it is the biggest differentiator in getting on a budget and sticking with it, which is the most important part. And that's something that you're gonna have to experiment with to really find out what is the right one for you. I actually have some videos on that you might want to check out in the cards above. Next thing, and this probably should go without saying, and it probably should be first, you should cut up your credit cards and stop digging the hole. Once you have your spending in line and you've stopped the bleeding with the additional spending, you should implement an advanced debt repayment strategy. Now, there are two that are discussed quite a bit in the YouTube finance sphere. And I'll go over them ever so briefly. I'm talking about the Avalanche Method and the Snowball Method. Now, don't ask me why debt repayment methods are named after winter season activities. Some things are just the way they are for a reason. Both of those methods are about speeding up your debt repayment by paying more than what you owe on your balances. But the difference is in what you prioritize to pay first, interest rates or balances. With the Avalanche method, you pay the minimum on all your other accounts, and you pay extra on the account with the highest interest rate. With this method, you will eventually save the most on interest payments. With the debt Snowball method, you pay off the smallest total debt first. Then you move on to bigger ones with your extra payments until you pay them all off. The upside with the Snowball method is that it's easiest to get started, and you then build momentum as you continue to pay your debts off. Now, they each have their pros and their cons, and it's up to you and your psychological profile, again, to pick the method which works for you. Don't get too caught up in the philosophical battle of which one actually gets the job done better. They both work. It's the one that works best for you, which is the one that you should pick. Now, me personally, I have a hybrid technique that I've taught to some friends, where I tell them to start off with the Snowball method, and as they gain the discipline to pay extra towards your debts, migrate to the Avalanche method. That is to say, start off with the smallest debt payments first, and as you gain momentum paying off small debts again and again, move on to the debts with the highest interest rate. That way, you learn to build momentum and discipline to pay off your debts and your credit early. And then you work on saving interest in the long run. With that unique twist, what you're gaining is the discipline to handle debts first, and then tackling the interest rates, which will in the long run save you time and money. Now, what to do to get on the other side of that debt spiral? Now that you have all that mastered, you're gonna wanna take the lessons from the bank that lent you that credit card. They did it so that they can make money. You can do the same to grow your wealth. There are really two strategies for executing them. My patented, not really, but super secret credit card technique. In other words, using advanced saving techniques to earn higher than average interest on your savings, using things like CD ladders or bond ladders, money market funds, etc., to earn that interest on the things that you want, and then putting those things on a credit card to earn the reward points and the perks, and then paying that balance off immediately so you get the perks and the rewards, the awesome bump in your credit score, plus the interest from all your savings. I have a video on that you should check out. But the real lesson from that super secret technique is that you should issue your own debt. The only problem is that you, as the bank, the issuer of the debt, things like bonds, certificates of deposits, etc., you now have the responsibility of vetting the individuals and institutions that you're lending to make sure that they can pay back the loan that you gave to them with interest. It's not a light responsibility, let me tell you. And the sad truth that for the individual investor, it's not as lucrative as a bank issuing a credit card. While they can charge anywhere from 16 to 20% interest or more, you'll be hard pressed to find any bond yield, CD interest rate, etc., that's over 5%. You see, that's where investing comes in. Once you're out of debt, and you have the discipline to save and save well using high interest vehicles, you now need to make sure you are investing to really grow your wealth. Speaking about saving, check out this video on CD ladders and how they can really supercharge your savings in light of the conversations about how to use your savings to really drive your wealth creation. I think you'll find it interesting, and be sure to like and subscribe and turn on all post notifications. Keep in mind that a goal without a plan is a wish, and a goal with a plan and no action is a wish list. I'm Derek West, this is Finance Squared. I'll catch you next time. Take it easy. Peace.